and donate all the paint for the church. So all the youth came out, and they all came out and painted the building. So there's where we are today. And at the beginning of the video, then when we got to Africa and you saw that elephant go like this, we were driving down the road. We saw these elephants over there, so we stopped, and I jumped out of the car to get a good picture, and that made her angry. So that's why she was telling us to leave, and so I got back in the car and we left. And but that first line is when you heard we were on a safari driving. We're up in a big safari vehicle, so we're sitting up here. And when she grunted like that, it was so loud you could feel the percussion against your chest like this. It was just unreal. That's why I said, wow. But anyway, so then Lay's accident there at the end, our dentist, his son went to the same international school where we had our son Ethan, and he had just dropped him off and was coming back that way, and Lay was taking Ethan to school. And he said he thought he recognized our car, and just as he got there, he was taking a picture as they were lifting her out of the car. So that's how we got that. But anyway, I don't have a whole lot of display out there, but I have an Easter tract. I actually wrote this and translated it, and then I had it double checked and everything, so you know that I'm working as a linguist. But anyway, it's out there if you want to look at it, and I got a few prayer cards, not a whole lot. But when we came home last year, then Leigh didn't want her picture taken after she started losing her hair, and so we didn't get any new prayer cards, and the ones that are there's only a few, and they're old. But if you want one, if you can get one, go ahead. But we appreciate your prayers and everything, and I know a lot of you have prayed for us all this year since camp last summer, and I appreciate all of that. And I'm glad for the opportunity to be here. In Matthew chapter 9, verse 36 to 38, if you can turn there just for a moment, Matthew 9, 36 to 38. I'm sorry, I can't help it. I've seen that video so many times over the last year, and every time I see it, I get emotional. But anyway, Matthew chapter 9, verse 36. But when he saw the multitudes, he was moved with compassion on them because they fainted and were scattered abroad as sheep having no shepherd. Then saith he to his disciples, the harvest truly is plenteous, but the laborers are few. Pray ye therefore the Lord of the harvest, that he would send forth laborers into his harvest. So when Jesus saw the multitudes, he was moved with compassion. And compassion, a basic Christian characteristic is love for people. And God is love, and he's taught us to love people as well. The first and great commandment was, thou shalt love the Lord your God with all your heart and soul and mind. And the second is, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. And we know from the parable of the Good Samaritan that our neighbor is everybody, whether they're next door or around the world. Everybody's our neighbor. They all need to hear the gospel. And this is more than just having sympathy for starving children that you might see on a TV ad for UNICEF or something else like that, Sympathy is a feeling. Compassion is action. It's doing something about the feeling. It's seeing the need and being a doer of the word. So Jesus had compassion. He taught his disciples by example compassion. And when you're moved with compassion, it will cause at least 5 reactions in your life. And then probably a lot more, but I want to just touch on 5 here real quick this morning. And the first is that compassion will move you to tears. At Lazarus' tomb, they took Jesus to the tomb, and in John 11:35, it says Jesus wept. Now, Jesus didn't weep for Lazarus. He's about to raise him from the dead. But he was weeping, I think, for all those people out there that were weeping and wailing. You saw that at the end of the video, there was a clip where we were at a burial. And I had preached the funeral service the night before, and then they went down and had the burial on that was a Saturday morning. And so I had one last chance to share the gospel there before they put the body in the tomb. But they don't dig a grave. They just build a little crypt and slide it in and seal it off. But that's, you heard all those people wailing. There were a lot of people at that funeral, and a lot of them obviously were unsaved, but they were wailing and carrying on as Filipinos do, and Africans do, people in America do. You see that all the time. But that was what they were doing. And I rather think that probably Christ saw people that were crying and wailing like that when he was at Lazarus' tomb, and that's who he was weeping for. He knew who would be saved and who wouldn't, and who would accept him and who would reject him, and I think that's what broke his heart. But when you're moved to tears, it will also move you to be a soul winner. Psalm 120, that coffee, who makes the coffee? Psalm 125, verse 5, and says that they that sow in tears shall reap in joy. He that goeth forth with weeping, bearing precious seed, shall doubtless come again with rejoicing, bringing his sheaves with him. And so the tears will move you to be a soul winner. Now, when a year ago in December, we were actually planning our furlough to come home this year. But a year ago in December, Leah had she woke up one morning, her whole side was swollen and in pain, and she took some ibuprofen for a couple of days. Nothing worked. So we went and saw this old doctor that we took the ITA people to, and he said that he was about to retire, but he said, it looks to me like you're just fat. I said, how can you be fat on this side and not on this side? I mean, that didn't make any sense. So we figured it must be time for him to retire, and we went and found... there was a newer hospital on the old Navy base, which is now the Freeport zone, but we went there and got a good doctor and got an ultrasound. He said, you have tumors, and he said, it'd be better if you go home. So we had our last meeting with the ITA people so that Leah could say goodbye, and the ladies all got together and they had a fellowship, and so then we sent her home. My wife's mother and sister, and we have a daughter, Hannah, who we adopted, and they all live in San Diego together. And so they picked her up, took her to the hospital in Chula Vista, and Leah said, well, there were 300 people in line. It was a busy night, apparently, but there was an oncologist there. And when she saw Leah's paperwork, she said, move her to the front. So they took her in right away, which was a real blessing. And they said, well, you've got some lumps. We have to check these. But the soonest they could get the lab scheduled was February 17th, which was about a month away. And so they were concerned, but they said, okay, well, we'll take what we can. Well, 2 days later, the doctor called and said, can you come in on Martin Luther King holiday? I said, sure. And so they went in. What had happened was the doctor was so concerned, she got all the lab people together, the mammogram, the x-ray, the ultrasound, and the PET scan, and all that stuff. They got them all to come in on their holiday just to check Leah out. And so they did, and she had, it was diagnosed as stage 3 breast cancer. And so they started her on chemotherapy right away, and she did 6 rounds of that. And then last summer when we were at the youth camp, I had been invited to speak there, and it turned out that it worked out just right because they're all living together in San Diego in the same house. And we had 10 people in a house with 4 bedrooms, and then I got there, and then Ethan got there because Ethan and I stayed in the Philippines until May when he finished school, and then we got June and Ezra to come and take the church. So when we came home, now there's 12 people in this house, and we decided it's better if I go away. So I went to the camp last summer. That's how all that came about. And then she had, when that was finished, she had surgery. And they took out 24 lymph nodes, and 6 of them had cancer. And so she had to go through some therapy to get her arm up here and all that so that she'd go in the tube and do the radiation. She had 25 bouts of radiation, and on October 17th, she rang the bell. Amen. So, excuse me. I'm sorry how many times I told this story. I get emotional every time. But they wanted her to do a chemo pill to get all the residual whatever, because it hides in the bones and stuff, you know. And so she's been doing that pill now since December, and she'll be finished first week of June or so. She's finishing that pill. Then she'll have her last doctor visit. It's already scheduled June 23rd. And her last blood work 2 weeks ago, everything was fine and looks good. And so, Lord willing, that last visit, everything's fine and looks good. And then we will plan on going back to the Philippines later this summer as soon as we're able. Now, Ethan he's graduating. We got him into David Jeremiah School in San Diego to finish his senior year, and he's graduating in 2 weeks. And so by the end of this week, I'm heading back out there, and when he graduates, we'll get them all together. We're coming back home to Springfield until she has her last doctor visit. And so, but why? Why, after all of this, why does Leah want to go back to the Philippines? I mean, it's her home place for one, and that's obvious, but she has a comfortable life here if she wants to stay here. But why would she want to go? Well, back in 1992, when we first met the Aitas, there was a small village of them near where we lived on the Navy base, and so we went down there and to introduce ourselves to them and held Bible studies there in the village. And the last time we were there, I had orders back to the States, and we were getting ready to leave, and we told everybody goodbye, and all these kids followed us out of the jungle up over the hill by the road where the car was, and Leah went down the line hugging all of them, came back to the car, and she was crying. And we started praying, wondering, Lord, who's going to reach these people? Because this was just a small village. There's a larger village up in the mountains where we're working today, and but they're all the same group of people. But why? Because she has compassion for the Aita people. And when compassion will move you to tears, it will move you to go soul winning. And it will move you not to let anything to stop you. And so compassion will move you to tears. Well, secondly, compassion will move you to give of your time and your talents and your wealth. Now, not everyone can go to the mission field, but everyone can be involved. And you have your programs here in the church, your visitation like you were doing this week, and the music and whatever, Faith Promise Missions. There's a way for you to be involved. There's a great missionary hymn called O Zion Haste. It says, give of thy sons to bear the message glorious, give of thy wealth to speed them on their way, pour out thy soul for them in prayer victorious, and all thou spendest, Jesus will repay. You say, well, I can't give much. I don't have anything. I'm old and retired, or I'm young. I don't have a job, or whatever. And you say, oh, there's not much I can give. It doesn't matter. The Bible says, Matthew 10:42, Jesus said, whatever you give, even if it's just a cup of water, even in the name of a disciple, will not go unrewarded. So don't worry about if what you have is little. What you have, God will take and use it, and you will be rewarded. So the thing is to be willing and give what you're able to give. The third thing is compassion will move you beyond your comforts. A man came to Jesus and said, I'll go with you anywhere. And Jesus said in Matthew 8:20, foxes have holes and birds have nests, but the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head. You see, when Jesus came to earth, he gave up all luxury and comforts to come and be our Savior. I mean, he gave up all luxury and comforts. And, when I was considering going to the mission field, we had been asked to pray about it by several missionaries in Kenya, and we were praying about going there, but I wasn't sure. And I had, when I was in the Navy over there in the Philippines, I went to Hong Kong and bought all this beautiful rosewood furniture. It was, for dimes on the dollar comparatively. And then I got it shipped over to the States on my orders because the British China Fleet Club in Hong Kong had an agreement with the U.S. Navy. We could buy stuff and ship it on our orders. It didn't cost me a thing. So the stuff's basically irreplaceable. And I got my house full of this stuff, and Jimmy and Marie Strickland were missionaries to Argentina. They were lifelong friends of our family. And so we had them over for dinner one night, and we were talking about missions and everything. And I said to Brother Strickland, we're praying about it. I'm willing to go, but what am I supposed to do with all this furniture? And he, just like this, he went, it's easy to get comfortable. Well, I didn't surrender to missions that night, but that thought never left me, and that was one of the things that drove us in this, in deciding what does God want us to do and following it wherever he took us. And so, but when you think about it, when you see the Filipinos and the poverty those people live in, is it such a great sacrifice to put temporary possessions aside for a little while to take the gospel to people who have nothing. You see, it's no sacrifice at all. And you're familiar with Jim Elliot, the missionary who was martyred with the other 4 men in Ecuador. He said, he's no fool who gives what he cannot keep to gain what he cannot lose. So compassion will move you beyond your comforts, and compassion will move you to meet physical needs. Jesus healed the sick, the deaf, the dumb, the lame, the blind. He raised the dead. He fed the thousands. You saw Lay's medical clinic, what we jokingly called her medical clinic. She had some nursing training before we went to the mission field. She never completed it, but she actually worked in a doctor's office, and she knows quite a bit. And most of the stuff we deal with there was pretty simple. They were just dirty. They had skin diseases and rashes and all that, and lice and everything like that. And so a lot of it was pretty simple to take care of. And so we would do that for them. The problem with it for the people was that the river where they would bathe was 2 miles down the hill. And they go down a dusty trail of the river, bathe, and come back up the dusty trail, and they're just as dirty when they got back as when they left, you know. And so we had a guy with a motorcycle. You know, Filipinos wear flip-flops like we wear tennis shoes, and the guy was wearing flip-flops on a motorcycle, and somehow the chain caught his foot, ripped the whole right side of his foot, and it was dirty and swollen and infected. And they went to the hospital, and they wanted to amputate his foot, and no, they were scared of that, so they came to see us. And Leah said, well, let's see what we can do. So we got him on a table, got some warm water and soap, and cleaned it all off. And mostly it was just, dirt and grease. It was just dirty, and it was badly infected. And Leah took a knife and trimmed it as best she could, as much as the guy could take, and squeezed it out of there, and then put peroxide and ointment and everything else, wrapped it up. And she said, come back and see me next week. And he came back next week, and his foot was healing. And so then my wife used that as an opportunity to share the gospel, and not only did she save their foot, she saved their souls, or Christ saved their souls. But it was an opportunity to win someone to Christ that way. And so all of these things we do, medical and feeding. Fletcher wound up having cataracts, and we took him to a clinic to get it fixed. And he was real scared about it. He didn't want to do it. And so we were trying to talk him into it. I finally said, look, why don't you do one now, and then when you see how good it is, there was a group from the States that came over offering free cataract surgeries. It just happened to be at that time, and how the Lord works things out. So anyway, I said, do one eye first, and when they're coming back in 6 months, you can do the other. And he finally agreed. So they took him into the surgery, and his son started crying, and we said, what's the matter? He said, are they going to take his eye out? I said, oh, no. No matter how we try to explain it, they didn't understand, But anyway, he got out with his patch on, and 3 days later took the patch off, and he goes, oh, can I have the other one now? Well, it was too late. They had to wait for 6 months. Well, in 6 months, we had 8 more patients. And they came back a third time. We had 7 more. So 16 people got cataract surgeries. All 16 of them came to the Bible studies and made professions of faith. We were teaching in the elementary school. They have a class, Christian Religious Education. And we noticed, and they had no one to teach it. So we offered, they let us teach it every Friday morning. We had all the kids all morning. And so we noticed at noontime then, none of the kids were going home. They didn't serve food for lunch. And I asked the principal, she said, they don't have any food at home. So we thought, okay. So we started bringing snacks to give to the kids every time we were there. Then we'd already started our Bible studies up there, so we decided, let's bring food for the Bible studies. Then we got the church built, and we got a kitchen, and now it's not just a sandwich or a snack. Now we serve soup, chicken noodle soup, arroz caldo, a rice dish, and a big pot of chicken stew whenever we have special occasions or vacation Bible school. And so, but all of these things we use to win people to the Lord. And so they come, and their physical needs are met, and it opens the door to meet spiritual needs. But compassion will move you to meet physical needs, and compassion will move you to pray. Jesus commanded us to pray for laborers. Why? Because if you do, he might call you to be one. And, don't be afraid of that. God won't call you to do anything you can't do. He'll enable you to whatever he wants you to do. But we need to pray for laborers. And we need to pray for hearts to be open for the gospel. We need to pray for the spiritual growth of the believers, that they'll be protected from worldly influence, and that there are a lot of outside worldly influences in the Aita village that are drawing our young people away. We had a young woman that grew up with us. Her mother was instrumental in getting us property and all of that when we first started. And she grew up with us from the time she was 7 all the way till she's 17 or 18 now, or 19. And she was a leader. She memorized all the books of the Bible, memorized all the verses. She was helping people find the passages in the church service. She was actively involved. And 3 years ago, she brought her friend, a girl named Princess, and Princess had a lot of problems. She was in occultic things and all kinds of problems. Well, Leah dealt with her, and Princess gave her heart to the Lord. Princess, in the last 3 years, has grown so much that last fall, we sent her to Bible college. She was our first Aita student to go. She's back there right now. She's getting ready to go in June. They've actually changed the schedule from August to June, so we're getting ready to send her back. And she has been teaching Sunday school and all that. We did VBS this year. Every year we'd go down to the church. They go through the training, and the workers at the church in town where I'd pastored there, they would come up and do the VBS, and our kids would help. This year, our kids went to the training. Our kids taught. So we are really growing, and Pastor June and Ezra are doing a fantastic job with them. They had 103 enrolled in VBS a few weeks ago. 19 were saved, including, they had on top of that, 3 adults who were always coming over so they could catch lunch, but they had 3 adult ladies who were also saved. And then they had a funeral just a week and a half ago for the son of one of our people. In fact, Marlon, the one who donated that property on the top, her son died. And Pastor June preached the funeral. They had 7 people come out to get saved for that. So they are doing a wonderful job. We've got other kids that are wanting to go to the Bible college, and we pray for them that they will go, that they won't lose the vision. And the saddest part of that story is the girl that brought Princess. Over the last 2 years, she's turned away and gone out to the world. She's quit the church altogether, and it's broke our hearts because we always thought she might be the first one we send to Bible college. But you young people and whoever was there last summer, you heard my stories about my youth group when I went on a mission trip to Navajos, and out of the 10 kids, 8 of them turned away from the Lord. Listen, keep your heart with all diligence, because the attractions of the world can draw you away. It draws them away from the Aitas. It draws us away here in the States as well, and you've got to be on guard. Well, when we left, all the ladies were crying when Leah left, of course, and hugged her goodbye and all that, and it was 5 months later when Ethan and I were leaving, they were all crying again. I said, well, I can understand why you cry for my wife, but why do you cry for me? I don't know. But I asked Irene, the mother of this girl and the one that had been so instrumental helping us in the beginning, I asked her, why are you crying? I said, we're planning to come back. Lord willing, we'll be here again. And she said, you don't understand. She said, many people come to Pastolan. That's the name of the village. Many people come to Pastolan. You're the only ones that stayed. And we're getting to the point where, with Leah's health, and I'm old enough to retire, I mean, we could just say, okay, it's enough. And I don't mean to boast. This is not about me. But those people have a need to hear the gospel, and we have the ability to help them. And so, Lord willing, now, as Leah has her last physical checkup with the doctor and all that, and her blood work as well is good and everything, we're planning to go back. So we appreciate your prayers, and we appreciate all that you've done as far as, and remembering Leah for this whole year. I know a lot of you have, and the Lord has worked miracles in her life, and for all of us, and even finding Ezra and June and Ezra. I mean, I always say them backwards, but you think of Ezra being the man and June the woman, but it's reversed. It's June and Ezra. But anyway, we were looking for someone who could help us and work with us, and they had been up there several times, and we had been praying for them, and they finally agreed about April last year to come and work with us. So it worked. The timing was perfect, and they are doing fantastic. I hope that you will continue to pray for the Aita village and the people there. And this one girl, pray for her. Her initials are EJ. I'll just leave it at that. But you remember, if you can remember EJ, pray the Lord will get a hold of her and bring her back, because I think she can go to the Bible college also. And we've got 3 young men that they want to go. Pray for them, because that's the future of the work. We get the eye to people through college, learning how to win souls to Christ, and a burden to reach their own people. They'll go across those mountains and reach people that we never will. So pray for that, and thank you for letting me be here this morning. And